Hey everyone, welcome to this live office hours. My name is Kimberly. I'm from the 37 Signals product team, joined by Ashley in customer support. Thanks for being here. If you were here with us live, let us know in the chat. We always like to know who is here with us. Let us know where you're from. This session today is all about how we use Basecamp to support our customer support team and how they actually use the product. So we'll go through that a little bit today. We'll bring out someone else from the customer support team to join Ashley in this discussion, and we'll actually walk you through some actual projects that we have and show you how we use all of those things. So again, thanks for being here. Jacksonville, Florida, Prescott, Arizona. You guys obviously found the chat. The other thing I want to point you to is just below the chat, you'll see an icon with a question mark on it. If you have questions that come up during this session, if you will post them there, that is a great place to post those questions so they don't get lost in the chat. During the session, we'll make sure to answer some of those, and then we'll also get to any that we haven't answered throughout the session at the end. So post your questions there. You can also upvote someone else's question. So if you see something that someone else asked that you want to make sure we get to, definitely upvote that so it gets to the top of our list. We saw some of the questions that you submitted when you registered. So we have some of those preloaded, and then we have some notes on them, and we'll get to those as well. With that, Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, we'll have 45 minutes to maybe an hour, kind of depending on those questions. So please do ask them. Now is the most wonderful time. And of course, this session will be recorded. You come back to this exact link, and then you will find the recording and the record of the chat as well. And if after watching this, maybe you lead a support team, maybe you're on a support team, and you decide, you know what, I would like to have a little bit more of a specific conversation with them, reach out to us, support@basecamp.com. Maybe mention Joan, mention myself, Ashley, and we will be able to meet up with you, hopefully, or at least help you over email. And then finally, if some of this feels like I don't know nearly enough about Basecamp, about the fundamentals, that's okay. Kimberly has made every video possible. And so you head over to basecamp.com/classes, and that's where you'll see, oh, just kidding. That's not a Kimberly video. Those are our live classes. You will find Kimberly videos on a different site, and that is also extremely helpful. But we also have these live classes run by some of the greatest people on our team. And so you can meet up with them there for another live session, ask your questions there as well.
Perfect. And I put a link to that just below us. If you want to go to one of those Basecamp 101 classes, you'll see all of that there. The videos Ashley was talking about is on basecamp.com/learn. So we have some video tutorials as well.
They're so good.
Before we bring out Joan, actually, I'm going to bring out Joan. Yeah. Joan is going to join us from our customer support team. She is one of our managers. Joan, welcome.
Hi.
To the
Hello. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we're so glad that you're here. Before we have you share your screen and get into all those things, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I've been on the Basecamp support team for almost 14 years now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot. I won't say I've seen it all because there's so much more to come, I'm sure. Yeah, and I live in Portland, Oregon, so that's where I'm jumping in from, and I'm just super happy to share a little bit about our team and how we use Basecamp.
Amazing. Well, before you share your screen, I'm going to actually jump to one of our questions that we received when people registered. And we just want to off the bat jump into this, which is, does Basecamp replace your support ticket system? Ashley, do you want to take that and kind of tell us how we use Basecamp versus a ticketing tool?
Definitely. Basecamp does not replace a support ticketing system. They have a lot of features and functions in those kinds of platforms that are really essential to your success over there. So while Basecamp can remain like a knowledge base, a project management, obviously platform, a central source of truth, you are better off handling all of your communications with your clients or with your customers using something dedicated. For us, we use Help Scout. And also for us, we are a fully remote team. We're spread across the globe. And so to be able to kind of handle the volume that we handle at kind of the smaller group that we are, maybe about 15, 16, then it really is a bigger assist. And so we do keep all of our communication for our remote team within Basecamp, but we just handle our customer conversations out in Help Scout.
Perfect. And there is a little bit of crossover. You'll see when Joan shares some projects where we're linking to our Help Scout ticketing tool for on-call cases or voice of the customer, which we'll show you. So there is some collaboration between the two, but we keep customer conversations separate from our internal communication. So
also customer private data too.
Oh,
I think that's
yes.
also a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, good point. Well,
Mm.
Joan, why don't you go ahead and share your screen with us?
All
And
right.
Ashley and I will get out of the way so that you can do that.
All right. Great. Okay. So, hey everybody. This is my actual home screen for right now. I'm always tweaking it a little bit. And so I'm going to walk you through a little bit how I'm using Basecamp and how our team is using it. I have a little bit of different role in the team. I am a manager, so I manage 3 people in our team. So what I'm doing is going to be a little bit different than the people that I manage who are not going to have some of the same projects. I've got 3 main stacks that I use. The support stack, which I'm actually going to dive in deep, so we're just going to skip right over that. I have one for just sort of general management stuff. That would include stuff that I just kind of privately manage. I have my own little project called Joan's Work, and usually I use it for testing. If I'm working with a customer and they're noticing unusual behavior, I need to test it somewhere really quickly, pop it in there. But it's also got reminders for things that I need to stay on top of. And then I've got some other projects here for like just myself and the other managers. There's a lot of stuff where it's like nobody needs to see the sausage getting made. Let's 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 package it first, and then we can move it into more broader team communication. And we've got communications with other managers at the company in our manager community, and just some general management project stuff between myself and my team lead.
And I will say almost everyone here, well, I would say everyone here has a Basecamp project that's just themselves. Yours is Joan's Work. Mine is called It's Just Me, Myself, and I. Ashley, do you have a project name for yours?
Mine's called Notebook with a
Notebook.
star.
There you go.
Yeah, everybody's got at least
Right.
one separate project where they keep all their junk and they'll never show it to anyone else because it's a total mess. It is your, it's a, unless you, I bet Ashley's is very tidy. Ashley is
No,
very orderly. Mine is like, oh, you just put anything in here, huh?
Yeah.
So, and moving on to the people that I manage 3 people, and so they go into their own little stack, and I put them in that code. So I know that that project where I collaborate with them and talk about their work, that goes there. Uh, so
And before you open up that support stack, I do want to
mhm,
just point out it's interesting that you have 14 different projects that are all just related to support. Someone did ask, like, how many projects are we talking about? Do you want to kind of tell us, either you or Ashley, how you think about breaking things up into projects?
yeah. Joan, I'm curious about
yeah.
you first.
Yeah, sure. So it's really about functionality and how much that you have to keep in mind that like the big customer support project where we keep all of the main stuff, everyone on the company can access that. So anything we do in there also gets fed into their activity feed. So like leaning back into why we have a separate ticketing system, you know, using the right tool for the right occasion. If we kept everything in Basecamp, that's a lot to go into Basecamp, which is even if it was, the right tool for that. So um, I like to think of it as being a little more modular. So we have separate projects for our help pages, any sort of kind of endeavor that we have, like demos and guide calls that we do with customers. That's going to be a separate thing than just like broad team communication, things that are more applicable to everyone. Only a smaller subset of people are going to be active on that project.
Yeah. And for me, it tends to be when, yes, that is how I organize my stacks as well. But when I break a project out from our main project is when it has like its own deadline. It has
Mm,
more pieces than I can really plan for, or I really want to get more specific about who is working on this. Then you can use that feature at the top of a project that's like these people are on the project and the rest are just following. So that's when I tend to break it out. And for the record, those all start with support and then a colon and then everything else, so that all of our support related projects kind of fall into a line when we look at them in a list. So makes it
Well,
easy.
that is perfect transition to the support stack. So these are the main projects that you guys are using. So Joan, if you want to walk us through what some of these are. We're not going to open up every single one. Some of them we can't show you, but we'll at least describe what they're all for. And then we have a couple we're going to deep dive into.
Yeah, for sure. So I just kind of have these organized with the main customer support project right in the center. There's no deep logic to where these are ordered. Don't read too much into it. These are just the one. We have more support projects than the ones that I'm showing you here. These are just the ones that I interact with most frequently. So the ones that like I want quick access to. Um, the others I still have access to. I just got to dig a little deeper. So I'll just go like right across the top. Here we have an on-call project, which is things where there's bug reports, things that need a little bit deeper dive in on the technical end. We use card tables for that. And we write up bug reports, and then the right person can take a look, and that all that information is there. And that's where Kimberly, you were talking about how we're linking back to our Help Scout tickets, the email conversation with the customer. So basically, I support one of our representatives will basically like extract all the important information from that ticket and put it into a card so that whoever's grabbing it, a programmer, whoever it is, can just look at it and not need to read through an entire conversation. And so that's where those live. I'm not going to show you that. There's some, who knows what's in there right now. We've got our main team project, which is customer support. It's where we've got all of our chat and documents, and I'm going to show you that directly, but we'll jump over to Voice of the Customer. That's where we keep all our customer support requests. I'm going to show you that as well. And our help page project here, which is where we organize all the work we do around the help pages for both Basecamp and Hey, as well as internal documentation. Any requests for that go into that project as well. We have a separate project for Hey support. Hey and Basecamp are two different products, so some of the stuff that we talk about in support is very specific to Hey, and so it's good to keep that in its own project, so we always sort of like know where to drill down to find some of that information. And then just for me, I do a lot of stuff with our annual accounts to make sure that they have the right invoices and all the documentation that they need. That just gets its own separate project. So myself and some of our finance people can handle that and keep that ship moving smoothly. So I want to show you deep dive into our main customer support project here.
Let's do it. And before
Yeah.
you do that, I will say, I
Oh,
think that we do a really good job internally of dividing out projects, like really keeping things organized by the topic as opposed to combining too many things in one place.
Yep.
So
yeah.
good
Yeah.
example of seeing your stack there, Joan.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Basecamp is if you find that like, oh my gosh, there's way too much in this one project, we need to break it out, we make it pretty easy. You can move tools, you can move specific items, folders, what have you, so that it all becomes a little bit more manageable, modular, easier to understand. So I'll take you through kind of the top tools that we're using here in this project. Probably the one that gets the most activity is our chat. We're a fully distributed like team around the world. So we're not, on call on a video call all day. We're not in person. So communication just happens all inside of the chat, like about, hey, I'm starting my day, or hey, I'm leaving for the day. Sometimes we'll talk about, it can be water cooler, but it also can involve like, hey, are you guys seeing this same issue coming up from different customers? Is this going to be a big thing? Capital T. All that is that the first seeds start in chat when we start noticing patterns and asking each other questions. And then we have our message board, which is a little bit more for formal conversation, stuff that we want to make sure that everybody sees. Chat can go by really fast. I live in the Pacific time zone. Most everybody I work with has already been working 2 hours when I jump in. So it's like, if there's something super duper vital, it can't just be in a quick little chat thing, or something that you want feedback from me on, or you want to make sure that I see. It's got to go in a message. And that way I get a notification in my Hey menu. I can comment on it. It's a little bit more assured that I won't miss it. I try my best in chat, but it goes by pretty quickly. We're a
I mean,
chatty
there's a lot of you
team.
guys, so it
There's a
seems like it's
lot
always
of
rolling.
us. Yeah, there's a lot of us, and we're, it's, 7 days a week pretty much. Not everybody all 7 days, but there's plenty of chat going on. Um, so that's our message board. We also have like here that we have examples of what one of my colleagues, Chris, has posted. He does a write up of all the bug reports that we've done through a particular month and the kind of work that he does. And it's really great to have those to see, because he's great, able to grab onto certain patterns. And so those are the kinds of things you want a formal post for. And then a favorite tool of mine, automatic check-ins. Those are great for grabbing thoughts that, maybe you wouldn't necessarily, in this particular instance, you wouldn't necessarily think to, like, oh, I'll share this, I'll share that with my team. Just every week we're asking for tips or tricks, or issues that patterns you think maybe folks have run into, or yeah, different ways to help support our customers. That those can surface up in automatic check-ins, which is a different use from, like, say, I'm sure people know about our project where we talk about what the work we've done, which
Joan,
is, a good. Mhm.
I do have a question for you about these automatic check-ins. So
Yeah.
as a company, we have check-ins that everyone completes. What are you going to work on this week, and what have you worked on that
Mhm.
are required? Are these required check-ins of the support team, or is it like optional? If you have something to say, you respond?
These are very much optional. Yeah, they're they're not required, because they're not really necessarily like they're not really replacing anything, or they're like, there's not, maybe there goes like 3 weeks go by and no one's seen a new common issue, or no one has anything particularly novel to share in terms of tips or tricks. So these are not required.
Got it.
Uh, uh, Go back to the home page, and then we have a couple, three docs and files. So I think we might have more. Yes, we have four total. Docs and files tools, where we separate out all the documentation that is important, like for the entire support team, but they all have very different purposes. So we have our schedules and admin, which seems kind of self-explanatory, but I'll explain it a little bit. Since we're a fully distributed team, we have um, we it's helpful to know where everybody is, or like who's in, who's out. We have project days where people are out of the queue. It's helpful to know when those are across your entire week, so you have an idea of the shape of your week. And my colleague Marissa does an amazing job putting all of that together. And she pulls that together from the schedule tool, where we, tell each other, hey, I'm going to be out this day. I have an appointment some days. I have an office hours call today. I'm not going to be able to answer your questions, or be in the queue right now. And Marissa will basically pull all that out of the schedule, and then put it into something that is a little bit easier for us to see. Something like here. Um, and we can see that there's different project days, who's in, who's out, that kind of thing. Um,
Very at a
Actually,
glance.
Joan, if you'll go
mhm,
back to that screen, I want to get to this question that someone wrote in when they registered. And I think you're
mhm.
kind of on a page that's going to describe it. How do you commit to projects given that tickets are unpredictable and things can suddenly get busier? So there's no time to work on a project. Do you want to kind of
Right.
talk us through that one since we're on this
Yeah.
screen?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of a fact of life of support. So we work a little. We do work in cycles like the rest of the company, but there's a little bit more flexibility there, because we understand things change with support. Like, things can get busier. You don't have several days in a row, you only get that one day. As a manager, I try to make sure, like, if I see ahead of time that, like, oh, this person has a project day and there's not many more other people working that day, maybe people are out or someone's sick, I try to be there available to make sure that I'm basically replacing them in the queue for a little bit to protect their time, for that amount of time. Sometimes that can't happen. And so we all kind of have, on the support team, a little bit of agreement and a little bit of like grace that we give each other, because it's stuff happens. That's that. What more can you say? Like, so, it can be unpredictable. You can try to plan that as much as you can. If you're in a role where you're more you're more senior, and you'd like to give your team that opportunity to work on stuff that's outside of just responding to customers. I think part of that can kind of lie on you, as like, that you may have to take that responsibility on. It's like, hey, I'm going to protect this time for you, so that you have the time that we tried our best to give you to complete this thing that you are really passionate about and is going to help our team. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
really helpful. And I think we'll see when we get to maybe the help guide pages, we'll see some of that work that happens on those
yeah.
project days.
I do have
Yeah.
one comment about that. And I think that each team can be a little bit different, but for our team, we find that we really don't want to go beyond an hour. So we want a customer, for their first email with us to be waiting longer than that hour. So if it looks like we're reaching that point with like maybe 5 cases, then we'll call someone in. Even if it's just like a 10-minute assist, it helps, just to kind of get that number to a place where we want it to be. And so maybe your team is on a very different kind of volume and an hour is insane. I've been on those teams before. Whatever it is for your particular group and your volume, that's what you need to kind of make sure. That's when you start to call people in. Like, you kind of decide a benchmark and you adjust it as you go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yes.
I think we're on the docs and files. We've gone through schedules and admin, and then you have a couple
Mhm.
of other docs
Yeah.
and files tools just renamed. If you want to talk
Yeah.
through those.
Yeah. So we have our guides and policies. These are, how we handle certain issues, just general privacy, security kind of things that we want to make sure that we reference, that everybody knows. And so those are going to live in that particular docs and files area. We have our assets folder, and assets. Those are for things that we would directly share with customers. So, we're not going to share every single policy that we make, internal or external. External policies we obviously share with you on our policies website, but internal sort of procedures and those kinds of things, we're not going to be sharing those directly with customers. They'll just get to experience them. um, but assets are things like our IP list. If customers are working with an IT team that has a little bit more restrictions, they may need our list of IPs. The W-2s, our VPATs, those accessibility documents. So anything um, uh, that would need to be directly shared with the customer, we'll keep that here so that we know about them. I just saw someone post something in the chat over
Yeah,
here
I'm
that okay,
actually
so
going to move that. The question is, why do we use these in Basecamp, have these documents in
yeah.
Basecamp, as opposed to keeping them in Help Scout?
So we do have a lot of things that are in Help Scout. A lot of these things would be in Help Scout. A lot of these things might be on each person's own computer, or in text snippets. But I think it's really good to have sort of like the official, um, like this is officially what we have to share. And not every single person in our company who deals with some of these things has access to Help Scout or to our text snippets. So the support doesn't decide what our IP addresses are. That's more of an ops thing. So they're going to have to update us on what those any changes that go on there. And so that's going to probably pop into our IP list here.
I think also,
Um,
I'm sorry. I think also for assets like that, like if we are updating our certificate of liability insurance and we need to do
mhm.
that every year, it's really nice to use the function at the bottom of a document that says replace with a new version, because then not only
Yeah.
do you get the history when you click on see all versions of every single time that we've uploaded a W-9, and it
Mhm.
goes back really far, but you have that historical information, and then you have what's most up to date with who updated it, or even any conversations about it. Basecamp is literally just like the most official source of information that you can find. This is like our knowledge base and everything kind of poured into one. And then we get creative with our snippets, because I have a good number of snippets that are not anybody else's. And it's in my style of writing, and I include things
Mhm.
at a certain point. So it allows for the individualization too.
Yeah. Um, so, and we also have people who do a support day from outside of our team. It's called Everyone on Support. It's more volunteer now, so people on design or programming or ops are going to pop in for a day of helping our customers. And they might not be super familiar with Help Scout. They know how to send an email. We hire smart people, but they're not necessarily going to know like what exact snippet do I need to use to respond to this. Also, we, like Ashley said, we want people to use their own voices. They don't have to use like an official snippet. Can't some of us do. It happens. You got to respond to some emails quickly. But we always have these resources there. So um, I was a librarian in a former life
I
before I
did
joined
not
37
know
Signals.
that.
Um, and one of the things I learned from one of my librarian mentors is like, she said to us, I don't really care that you know the answer to a question. I care that you know how to find it. And I think that makes a huge difference in like when you work with someone who is going to be in a role of like helping other people. It's cool if they know exactly like the answer. That's not going to happen in every case. But if you can train someone to find the answer, that's worth more. Well, there's no weight to that because it's not a physical thing, but it's worth more than gold. It's really a wonderful skill to have. Um, moving on. Like right. Uh, and then we have our training documentation in here. So a lot of the things like about like, oh, why do you have this in Basecamp when you could put it in Help Scout or put it somewhere else? We're training people to support Basecamp customers. So if they're finding their answers in Basecamp, they're working through their training in Basecamp. That just makes them so much better at helping our customers when we train new support people on their first day. On your first day, you're going to answer a question from a Basecamp customer. So the fact that you found the answer in Basecamp just solidifies that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's smart.
Um,
Use the tool.
yeah. Uh, let's see. Okay. So those are the docs. We have to-dos. We don't use them a ton, but there are just some things that you need a to-do for.
Mhm.
Like making sure you get your W-9 updated, your certificates of liability insurance, those kinds of things. That's kind of what those are there for in this particular project. Um, so yeah.
And Joan, if you'll scroll up to the very top, because I did want to point out, this is a project you can see all those little faces plus 47. That's our entire team has access to this project. So not just support, anyone in any department can pop into this project, jump into the chat if they have a quick question for someone, or access any of these documents that they need to, which I think is very helpful. It's an all access project, so anyone
Yes.
in the company can jump into it.
Yeah. Anyone, like everyone in our company has access to it and is on it, but these are the folks who are actively working there, and so they'll get most of the notifications. It's a very busy project. Uh,
There was a question that came in that we pre-programmed in there. I'm gonna just hit start answering.
mhm,
It was about how we maintain our internal knowledge base, and we
Mm.
just kind of touched on that. Um,
mhm,
Years ago, I've been on the support team for 8 years, and so maybe like around year 3 or something, I made that to-do list that was like annual resource checks,
Mm.
because I didn't like
mhm,
potentially missing anything.
mhm,
So you can set up something like that, and it recurs, and you could pre-assign it to anyone. But I think also Joan mentioned that if we need a new internal request, that you use the card table,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So like some of this stuff came up as we needed it. Before we sort of had this organization in Basecamp 4, things were kind of all over the place. They were maybe in a Basecamp project, in a different, like an older version of Basecamp, or I was in Backpack. So over the years, a couple of people have kind of taken it on to organize those documents. One of my colleagues, Sylvia, has done a lot for internal documentation, and does a really great job. So some of that is like the person who cares the most at the moment, takes on the responsibility of it. But in some ways, like everyone's kind of responsible, like for, oh, they noticed this document is out of date. Let's raise that up to somebody and find out what the right answer is here. And in terms of like keeping it updated, yeah, we'll move on to the help page project. And so the main thing we do in here is use the card table to request updates and for updated documentation. We've got a message board for kind of announcements and docs and files for like style reference if you need it, or any other things like that. But the main things that get put in here are requests. So
And
you
just
can
to
see,
clarify, these
yeah,
are for our help guides that are accessible with that question mark on the bottom right corner of your
yeah,
screen. It's separate from the internal documents that we were just saying that we use internally. These are like customer facing pages.
right,
Mm.
yeah, exactly. So well, we also put internal documentation requests here.
Mm.
That just that's just a more convenient place than having a totally separate card table for those things that don't happen quite as often. And it helps keep us sharp in terms of like what's the language like in our internal documentation versus external. Like hopefully there's a lot of like they're harmonious, and then they're not. It's not like we're saying one thing stylistically internally and externally something totally different. We like to keep that consistent as much as we can.
There's a
So, so on our card table, we've got like requests. So any new requests that they have, that anybody from any team. So and this is another project where the entire company has access. Michelle, one of our designers on Hey, is amazing at keeping us updated on any tiny little tweak or new feature. She will request an update for the help pages. She's wonderful at that. And then it just kind of goes through a process. We kind of figure it out, we start working on it, and then we move it to usually ready to publish when something is ready. We just released search inside of the Hey calendar on the web first, not available on mobile yet. That's coming. And so I took that through the process of taking a look at what help pages would need to be updated, and adding the steps as necessary, and then eventually moving it ready to publish. It is published. I just wanted to show it to all of you. So we'll
You
move it to
wanted to move
done.
that card live.
Yeah, I think Michelle, even, yeah, okay, yeah, it's done. So uh, that's how that kind of work gets done. I think someone asked something about how it goes within a cycle, right?
Well,
So,
let me go to this question about
yeah.
finding things in our knowledge base. Brad, I know you're here live, so jump into the chat if we're not answering this question, how you're thinking. The question is, how do you find specific things within your knowledge base? I'm assuming you mean within our help guides, not our internal documentation.
I
my
think you might mean internal documentation.
Oh,
Hold on a
okay.
second.
I
The
went
second
internal.
part says we use Basecamp for customer support, but we have a lot within our troubleshooting guides, which is why it's making me think external. I don't know. And it can be
Mhm.
difficult for staff to find the specific info they need. Ooh, but maybe it
Hmm.
is internal at times as the
Yeah,
search is limited. Brad, let us know. Are you saying you're having a hard time finding things within Basecamp? Because I feel like
I
our
think
search is like super thorough.
I I I think I know what he means.
Okay, break it down for us, Joan.
No, no, no. No, I agree. Like, this can be an issue of like just vocabulary of like people are calling things one word and other people are calling things a different word. Um, and that can be tough when you're searching. Uh, Filters are great in terms of making sure you're searching for just documentations in customer support, that kind of thing. You're making sure that you're just looking for the right things. If you know who created the document, that's even better, but you don't necessarily have to. So if you're finding that's kind of an issue, we don't have tags for documents, but you can always add those words, like those keywords, to the bottom of the document. That might make searchability a little bit easier. If you're, the synonyms for certain words, I don't know what product you're supporting or what kind of terms people are searching for. Um, it might even be helpful for you to, if this is something that you find that you're not personally struggling with, but people on your team is, recording yourself looking for information might just help them, like, that if it's internally like makes sense for you. Um, or just talking to them a little bit about like, hey, how are you looking for this information, like how are we doing this, what are the little things that we can add to make it a little bit more make sense a little bit more,
Mhm.
um, and
This
that
also could
might
be an
help.
argument for breaking things up into separate projects too, because in that search field that
Yeah.
Joan is showing, you can search by a
Mhm.
more specific project. If you have so many documents, you may need to find it more helpful to split things up even further.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That way you can really drill down into, oops, what what specifically you're looking for. And I think the next project that we're going to look at is voice of the customer. So you'll see a lot of folders, and I
I
can
was
show
gonna say
you
that's
that.
actually a really good example, and that is a project that I search for usually after a feature launches, and there's so much to look through. Um,
Yeah.
so this is a good example. This is actually one of my favorite support projects, to be honest.
It's really wonderful. I believe it was our team lead Chase's idea a number of years ago to like gather everything into this project. And by everything, I mean customer requests. So we're actually a really small company for a software company. We can't make everything that customers request, but we never want to make a customer feel unheard. And so, and the things that they write to us about, that all of you write to us about, is like are genuinely important. We're just a pretty small company, so there's only these small chunks of time, in our lives, frankly, to get philosophical about it, that we are able to address issues. So anytime someone writes us a request, we will just basically grab it from Help Scout, where the request is, copy and paste. We'll probably ask you a few more questions about your request, of like, tell me more about like how this would be useful, like how would you use this? What made you think of this today? So we can get like a more full picture of the kind of requests that you have. And then we put it into the appropriate feature. We have folders for each feature in Basecamp, as well as Hey, and Hey Calendar. And so we organize those requests into folders and documents inside of those folders. And so the designers that we have can sometimes, if when they're looking for, hey, what do our customers really need, and what can we fit into this time frame, they will take a look at this project and see like, oh, hey, we've got like a good handful of customers who are requesting these things, and we know if like one person has written in, three other people have thought about this issue. So it's not just the one person writing in. um, and we gather those items, and then so we have, the literal voice of our customers writing in to tell us what they want, and then those become uh, so here's an example of, we have pings in Basecamp, and and people really wanted to rename groups because they were just named after all of the people who were in the ping. Not terribly useful if you're working with a lot of people. And so one of my colleagues, Jean, actually had, actual interviews with customers who requested this, and she wrote up a full pitch on this customer request. Uh, and she gathered that from all the requests that we had put into Basecamp. So we have all of that. We have their actual stories of like how useful this would be to them. And we use that to create that feature, which some of you may have noticed we launched a few months ago. So it came from like real customer requests. And then since we have all of these requests, individual requests, we can just go here, and this is the Help Scout link, and everyone follows up with them. I say everyone, Ashley in this case, a real person sent the person who sent this request an email letting them know, hey, this request that you did, we made this feature for you. Not you specifically, but sort of.
So, Joan, I'm going to go to Dan's question because you're answering it right now. How are you linking to and from Help Scout? So it's literally just a copying the URL into
Yeah.
this Basecamp
hmm
page.
Yeah. In the case of this, I think this is just a hyperlink to the actual ticket that, came in like in April of last year, 11 minutes, 11 minutes ago. And my colleague Robert, put that document in there, and then that immediately links to the ticket in Help Scout, and people can follow up there. So that's really it. It's not any more sophisticated than copying pasting. It's not a deep integration there.
Even
But it turns, yeah, it happens to work, and copy and pasting probably never going to break. Hopefully, Apple make sure that happens. Like that's on Apple.
I'm going to,
Yeah.
since we're talking about feature requests, I'm going to go
Mhm.
to Phil posted a question in the chat, which is how do you prioritize feature requests? Any way to have an upvote popularity system?
Ooh.
We don't have an upvote popularity system.
Mm-mm.
But honestly, I would say the frequency of requests on the same item is kind of an upvote for us.
Yeah, you can see here we've got 23 requests, or I guess it would be 22 because the pitch document is in there. So compared to some other requests, which are important, like this one, when something is as specific as group names for pings and it has 23 different requests, that's when like, okay, this is something that people are really looking for. Um, and that's the kind of thing we do like that we will start to observe of like, this is beyond just this is a request about pings, like this is a request for something very specific within pings, and dozens of people have written into us about this. um
But
yeah.
ultimately, those features are up to the product team and probably more specifically, Brian, the head of product strategy. And so you will see Brian popping in here, and especially he will probably click on support, voice of the customer, the project itself, and then scroll to
hmm
the bottom to get a pulse on what's the latest within this project,
hmm
to kind of see what's the activity, what's going on right now. And then we'll also look at just the sheer volume of certain things, especially if it keeps coming up. And then Brian takes that information. We have a whole video on this, filmed by Jason Fried, our CEO, about how they take those kinds of ideas. Brian turns it into like a more detailed pitch and like how it could literally work with our team in the way that we're currently positioned, like with a certain number of designers and programmers, and then talk through that with Jason and David before we do another cycle. So I'll link to that specific video, but we flagged certain things, but it is ultimately up to Brian and Jason and David.
And I'm going to
yeah.
throw up this email address again, support@basecamp.com. That is the team that takes those feature requests. Like, we like to hear from you guys. So if you have something
Yeah.
that would help you work better within the product, we definitely want to know about it. And I love this project because it really just shows all the customers that we have that are giving us feedback that we love to hear. Brian, when he's writing those pitches, he is going to this project and he's often like taking quotes from customers. Like, this is literally what their problem is. Like, this is how they're describing
Yeah.
it and why we need to fix it. So this is really, it's a great way to
Yeah.
get all of that collaboration in one place.
And I want to add the caveat that just because something has a lot of requests does not automatically mean that it will be developed. There are some things that
Correct.
are not going to fit within the product. We were all talking about the beginning about like why do we use Help Scout or like what do we use for customer communication? Like Basecamp is I was thinking about it earlier today, like it's like a beautiful set of like wonderful knives. It's for so like so useful for cooking, right? And you can peel a potato with a really nice knife, but you're probably just better off with a vegetable peeler. But you're not going to chop your potato with your vegetable peeler, right? So
Love that.
for a really specific tool like use case, like Basecamp might not be the right thing, but it's going to be the right thing in a lot of your use cases. That's an imperfect metaphor, but I hope you're starting to catch my meaning. It's not just by popularity, but when many customers kind of have the same pain point, that's definitely pointing towards something. Hey, we need to address this in some way.
Hey, Joan,
Mhm.
quick question for you. It's actually Phil's question about the organization of this. There's some folders that are labeled by years. Does that mean
Mhm.
anything special?
If he did ask if they were archived, yeah. After a while, we kind of just move things into an older year, just because like we're not ignoring people, so we're collecting all of them, and then it becomes a little unwieldy after a
Mhm.
while. Um, so to keep everything most current, uh, and sometimes people request something because they just started using Basecamp and they don't realize like, hey, maybe this I can learn to live without this, or I don't need this specific thing that I felt I did. I found a way to work around it.
Mhm.
But the things that are really important are going to keep coming back year after year. I think Jason has a very old post about that of like,
Mm.
you
I
know,
have it.
uh, the, the things that your customers care about will surface.
Well,
It won't
yep,
just be a one-time thing and then never mentioned again. So that's a little bit just to keep it more tidy, basically.
perfect.
Um,
We have just a few more minutes left. If you guys have questions for us, if you'll post them under the question mark on the right-hand side, we'll knock those out before we leave. But before we get to those, Joan, tell us a little bit about um, on-call projects, what the customer support team handles, and how we kind of manage that in Basecamp. That'll be the last little
sure.
show and tell before we go to those
Yeah.
last questions.
Um, on call, yeah, this is it's just I can show you the first one. So this is a anytime there's bugs, unusual behavior happens in software, all kinds of software. And someone besides like our support team may need to take a look at it. Maybe someone with a little bit more behind the scenes access, a programmer, etc. We create a card for that. Someone on our team, whoever's handling that case, creates a card, and then that can go be given to the right person. There's probably an office hours or something about on-call shifts, but programmers take, I believe, 1 week now in
A cycle.
cycles. Yeah, to work on responsive work like that. So they're out of their, cycle project for that week and they're working on little bugs that come up. And so we first put it in the tier one, which is a manager or someone a little bit higher up in support to take a look and make sure that we've asked all the questions we could. Maybe there's something like just a little quick fix that we can do on the support end. And if not, we'll bump it up over to programmers. So a little bit of time saving for them to make sure that we've got all the information that a programmer needs to solve a problem, hopefully. And then we can move it to the right people who can fix the issue that way. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a completely separate project, but support is in there a lot.
Really?
Yeah, support programmers, ops are like, well, again, the whole company is in there, but like specific people tend to chime in there more often.
I'm going to go to a couple questions that we have in the queue. If you have one, add it. But I'm going to go to Dan's question,
Mhm.
which is about cycles. What work are you doing within the cycles as tickets can be unpredictable? So
Sure.
what
Yeah. So
non-ticket cycle work?
Non-ticket cycle work. Well, I can speak to particularly with help pages. We work on field guides, which are sort of examples. Oh, let me find the actual product I want to show you, which are they're in our help pages, but they're just basically like examples of built out work for different industries. Um, and we can create a couple of those per cycle, depending on how much time people get outside of the queue. And they just are filled with like, oh, how would a someone managing like a youth sports team, how would they use the messages, the chat, all of these things. So we build some of those out, and that those are not too difficult to fit within a cycle. Even if you miss half of your project day, you can complete some of those within a cycle. Um, Obviously, when we come up with new features, that those get planned out, depending on how large that feature is, how many screens basically it touches. That can be a little bit longer work, but we'll fit those into a cycle. Um, Other projects within customer support, a lot of people do stuff within the community. That's Ashley. She could probably speak more to how she plans out the kinds of things that she wants to do in the community during a given cycle. We also do we work on new classes. So that link before the basecamp.com/classes. Some of the people that I manage have um, they are given a cycle to build out a new class. Robert built out a card table class because we kind of noticed every time we were having a conversation with a customer who had used Basecamp for a number of years, the card table was like brand new to them. And I was like, oh, well, let's tell more people about the card table because I love it. So we built that. So we took a cycle to build out like, okay, the different examples we wanted to share with customers. And we're working on another new class now for like individual customization of Basecamps. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Dan, if
We
it
do keep
doesn't, let us know in
yeah.
the chat. Okay, we have
Yeah.
lots of questions about your color coding, Joan.
Well, see, that's funny. That's going to come with the customization. Well, at least this has no logic. I think I really just went with what looked best with the little logos that I chose that I Google image searched. So there's no rhyme or reason to my personal ones in my stack. I just picked it. It looked okay. So I was like, looks good. I
Yeah.
think, well, green is one of my favorite colors, so I wanted it to be a part of support. So I was like, oh, it's green. Um,
And then
uh,
follow-up question from Priscilla, which is, do the
mhm.
colors show the same for everyone, or are the colors just visible to you as a user?
Oh, stunning question for our upcoming class. Oh, I'm so excited to tell Dana. So these are unique to me, obviously, and as is this one here on the project. Within the folders, however, here
Mhm.
these are for everyone on the project. Everybody sees table of contents is pink/red, green means blue. I don't think there's anything. Actually, I do know that there is some level of no. I thought I had an assumption. I don't work very deeply in terms of with this project in terms of extracting stuff and making a pitch. So
All
I
right.
don't think. I think the blue folders mean that it's older, like it's archived. We're
Oh,
done, and then um,
When
I
Ryan
don't
was,
I I
I can
don't
tell
know
you,
what yellow means.
Ryan went through all of these different, every single category before we had subfolders. And
mm.
so Ryan he was like, all right, I think we've got like 3 requests for this. And so he kept making folders. He likes yellow. He went with yellow. So
Okay,
the,
so it was someone else's, that which
yeah,
is fine. That's why like it doesn't really bother me because it's like this is not this is
great.
I'm not married to the color scheme, so it's okay.
Um,
Like, and
yeah,
I don't need to make sense of it more than the car with more than the folder name.
yeah.
Uh, so I
Um,
mean that feature is available if that's how you want like you want to organize your project, but these are for everyone on the project. Everyone sees these specific
Yep.
colors.
So
Everything on my home page is particular to me.
exactly. And not just colors on the home screen, Priscilla, anything on your home screen in terms of folder organization, how you have things stacked, the colors that you use, what you have
Yeah, the
pinned.
colors.
It's all personal to you as a user.
Right.
Anyone else who's on those projects does not see their home screen the same way as you see your home screen.
Well,
Okay, last question, ladies. Is AI changing the way you're currently doing and managing support and success? Ooh, the
I have a
AI
small.
question.
I have my own opinions on this, which would take
I know.
longer than we have allocated for this call. Uh, right now, we don't use a lot of AI internally for support things. Externally, we do have a chat bot for one of our products, Hey, that will answer very quick questions. Um, that what that does is what they call that is deflection to make sure that like the quick questions can get answered. In the support realm, it's called deflection, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and that what that does is free up time for our support agents so that they're not agents, they're our team. I don't
Yeah.
know, but broadly, agent. So they can do project work. They can do a little bit more deep work. They can spend more time on the questions that do need a little bit more time.
Right.
And that's sort of how we're looking at it in the present moment right now. We're
Yeah.
That's always something we can look in. We are and will look into in the future. I think we're a very human company.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got back from a support conference, and a lot of the conversations were about AI. And what frustrates me about some of the AI conversations from other people, not our company, thankfully, is that there's an emphasis on getting better at AI so we can be better at AI.
Mm.
That is not the point of our team. The
Oh,
point of our customer support team is not to be better at email. If
yeah.
that if that comparison makes sense to anyone,
That's a great way to
we
explain it.
like like if somebody put on their resume, I am the best at emailing, like that tells me nothing about what you care about. So we really care about our customers, like their experience being human, you know,
I
doing
think
human things. Yeah.
the only time I use AI and that I know of on the rest of the team is when somebody like writes to us in Lebanese, and I only speak Spanish and English, so I will use like Chat GPT because
Yeah.
it's definitely better because you can do like different dialects. Like if you are Spanish speaking, you can say like, okay, but more lean more Latin America, lean a little bit more Spain, um, and so we use Chat GPT. At least I do to kind of translate my response. So I'll put mine in English and then I'll put a notice translated with Google or translated with
Mm.
AI or something so that they
Mhm.
know that it's me, but it's not me, you know?
Yeah. There are definitely more things that I want from AI that I'm not getting right now. So I'm not necessarily using it. And I'm not saying that I never use it. There are ways to do it. I think it's a wonderful tool for like removing some obstacles if you're already doing a lot of good work and you're pretty smart. I think people treat that as like, oh, here's my shortcut. I'm like, I don't like that personally. That's
Right.
just speaking for myself, not that anybody really asked. Just
Well, I also think, Joan, you just explained it very succinctly that like we're a very human company. Like we are very person to person kind of communication. So I think that kind of explains it quickly where we stand at this very
Mhm.
moment.
Indeed.
Okay,
There's one more.
one last
Yeah.
question before we wrap it up. Phil, I'm glad you're here. Do you
Okay.
expect each
Yeah.
support person to know everything about Basecamp, or do you separate documentation support based on areas of expertise? Ooh, great
I
question.
think this goes back to the thing that I said before about like knowing where to find the answer. There's some deep, deep product lore that is like we had other products like Backpack. I love Backpack. I love Backpack. If you take nothing away else from this class, Backpack was wonderful. Um, Uh, but there's almost 2 decades of product information, and I don't even know all the things. I am forgetting things constantly. I am forgetting things right now. So we don't have the expectation that people know everything. Like if things keep coming up, like, yeah, you should probably know, like, really specific things about like how the message board works or whatever. That's a very like basic level thing. Nobody has problems with that. But you should know where to find it. And if you did everything, you did your best to find the answer and it wasn't there, then that's a documentation problem, and we can solve that. So yeah, that's you don't have
Okay.
to know everything, but hopefully it's documented somewhere.
I do think that some people have like a natural expertise on some things. And so I will go to a specific person, probably you, Joan, when I'm like just double checking my troubleshooting. Am I thinking of everything? Is my brain having an off day? And then folks will come to me when they're like, I have this more of like a intro guidance kind of an email to handle. And I'm like, all right, let's think about it like this, and this. And then we kind of collaborate on that. So yes, expertise, but everyone they have the basics and more really solidly within their.
Okay, ladies, this has been amazing. Before we leave, Ashley, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Basecamp community that you head up?
Yeah, I do.
I know we have some community members here, but if you're not in the community, Ashley, give them your pitch.
Yeah, the community is a place of generosity, is a place of intrigue, of answering questions, either ones that you didn't know that you had or ones that you literally currently do have right now. It's a way to see how other people are using Basecamp, because there's not a lot of ways to kind of find that level of community. If I work in event planning, how am I going to find Kimberly, who ran her own event planning company? So you can use the community to find other people working in similar situations, or do kind of gut checks like that, where am I using the card table in the coolest way possible? So the community is perfect for that. And we also have hats. Please join us.
I put a link right below us to a link to join the community if you're not part of it and you're a Basecamp user. Click that link. I think it asks you a couple questions maybe, and then Ashley will funnel you in to the community. Dinos is here.
Yes.
Also a fan of the community.
In the community, we have a project called Voice of the Community that has a similar reflection that Brian also looks at, our head of product, to just see kind of how people are communicating and reacting about those things. So we'd love to have you in both spaces. Send us an email with your features and write up a post in the community itself. And yeah, we'll see what new things come up every cycle.
Well, we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you for joining us. If you want to share this with anyone or watch it back again, the link that you came to join is the link that you can watch the recording just a few moments after we end. So, Joan, thank you for ushering us through this. Ashley, of course, it's always good to see you. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys again at another office hours soon. You guys have a great day.